So this is going to be a little bit difficult because there's a lot of people here, and they might unintentionally interfere. But I'm going to try to make a video of this exhibit, just a short exhibit, or a short video of this exhibit. What you're seeing here is a video about a homeless kid. He's about 10 years old. His name is Mark. And I watched the video and it's pretty powerful. There's this part where he describes how he wants to essentially be the kind of person that can protect people, which I think is really powerful considering his circumstance, considering kind of the things that he's gone through, and that he still wants to be the best person that he can be and not let the things that he's going through interfere with kind of his goals. So there's a lot here at this exhibit. This is the curatorial statement. If you think about the statistic of 13,000 homeless people, over 13,000 homeless people just in Utah, you have to admit that it's a pretty staggering number. And yeah, I mean it's troubling. I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that except that it's very, very sad. I have to admit I don't know who Justice Stephen Stone is, but he has this great quotation here that says, "A dwelling or shelter is a subjective term since it can mean entirely different things to different people." And I guess kind of what I get out of this statement is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to come back to it because I'm not sure what to say, but it's definitely a lot of food for thought. But there's a lot of other stuff here too. To be honest, I'm not sure what these pictures are for, but I imagine looks like they're constructing a house or something. And then, so this really stands out to me. So I'm sure everybody's heard of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I think that this really captures kind of the harshness of, like, just the impossibility of getting out of homelessness. So we take for granted the things that we have, such as food, shelter, and we don't realize that there's other elements to this kind of thing. So for instance, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, if you have, trouble with addiction, if you have trouble with mental illness, then how can you focus on getting treatment when you're worrying about your basic needs? Essentially, it's impossible. And I've always thought that Maslow's hierarchy of needs was pretty accurate. And I'm not surprised that essentially homeless people can prove that it definitely exists. So I think this is interesting as well. It's kind of an interesting statement that definitely requires a person to think seriously about how they well, I don't know, like just thinking about how we value people who are homeless and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. This is a nice little sketch of a house, and again, just kind of reminds me of how it's easy to take our living quarters for granted, and how it's very easy to do that, and how when you're homeless, it's got to be very hard. Lynn Blodgett is the person who made the photographs, and there's a ton of photographs. From what I understand about his project, he did this in order to give a face to homeless people, and he did it, specifically to kind of humanize them and show that they're definitely people too, which I think is very powerful. There's a lot of really powerful photos, such as this one or this one, and yeah, it's by the way, sorry about all the chaos, but you do what you can. But yeah, and here's another photo. I talked to the person who runs, who helped with this exhibit. I'm not sure exactly what her role is at this museum, but she described how essentially, basically, they didn't put the stories of these people immediately with the pictures because they wanted to give homeless people a human face and not get so hung up on their story to where you kind of have like false sympathy, which I think is pretty powerful. I'm not sure what this is supposed to say. I'm pretty sure it might be, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if it's a criticism of capitalism because he's dressed up or if this is a homeless guy who succeeded. I'll have to look it up. This one, he might be a homeless guy. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. But anyway, I always thought that this one was powerful. Basically, it's already hard enough to take care of yourself when you're homeless, but it's even harder to take care of people that you're with, especially if they have some kind of disability. And basically, these brothers, this brother is taking care of his brother who has a disability, and I think that it's very powerful. Again, here's another photo, and another one. I mean, all of these are really powerful, I think, and kind of with what they convey. To think that there's actually families that are homeless, that like it's not just, you know, like we have this stereotypical image of, you know, usually only a homeless adult. Usually the stereotype is that it's a male, but that's not always the case, because there are plenty of homeless families in the world. So there's a lot of stories about. So some journalists, I think that experience. Yeah, they didn't experience it themselves, but they documented some very powerful stories about homelessness. So specifically, so here's another one, and there's another one called Rich House, which I will get to in a second, which is about basically a person that was able to get out of homelessness, which was pretty powerful. It's hard because I'm trying not to get other people in this thing because I think that there's like a law against that. But so anyway, to get to these pictures, what's really powerful is that I actually know some of these people. I've actually met some of them, and I can kind of see why they would be homeless. I won't actually specifically show a person because I think that would not be fair to their privacy. But they're people I've talked to, and I think that it's amazing. You know, I mean, what that reminds me of is definitely like the existence of homelessness, the fact that it exists. You know, the fact that it exists, and how we run into these people in our day-to-day life, and how you know, sometimes it's hard to know what to do. But I just find it interesting that I've actually met some of these people. I think it's really powerful. I think it's very powerful indeed. As a side note, this is kind of a cool little piece. If you take a picture of it, essentially if you take a picture of it, it becomes, so it looks pixelated on the fence. But essentially what happens is after you take a picture of it, it comes together, and you can actually see the whole face. But there's a lot of other good stuff in this exhibit too, such as this part right here, which does a good job explaining why people become homeless to begin with. So divorce, if you're fired or you have a foreclosure, mental illness would definitely be a huge part. Abuse would definitely be a huge part. Death of a loved one. I remember talking to one of my friends once, and he was describing how, you know, there was a guy with a PhD, and he was homeless. And he was homeless because somebody who he really loved died, and he really cared about them, and it basically broke his heart. Physical disability and substance abuse, and as it says specifically there, it often makes the situation worse. These are the statistics about Utah generally. So 29% are children, 46% are in families, 40% are single men, 14% are single women, and 3.9 are chronically homeless. 80% need shelter for less than 2 weeks. Um, and and then these are the statistics about America, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. One of the biggest problems is indeed the fact that um, it's just hard to find an affordable house. There's a lot of other cool stuff here. The book up there was made by Lynn Blodgett, and I've had the pleasure of looking through the book. And then there's just a lot of other books about homelessness, first-hand accounts. There's a book by Steinbeck, which I did not know existed, but it looks like it's called Travels with Charlie. And there's another one called Invisible Innocence, which is one that I was hoping to look at pretty soon. These are 10 ways to help homeless individuals. I think that there's definitely some truth to it, but I think that it's misinformed in the sense that sometimes organizations can be very standoffish towards the volunteers, which I've experienced personally, and because of that, it prevents you from being able to successfully help the population, which is kind of troubling. And so I don't know if I necessarily agree that you should just donate to the organizations. But I do think that if you do run into homeless people, they're right about talking and smiling and saying hello. In my experience with helping homeless people, sometimes they can be hostile because they don't trust you. And why should they trust you? And it definitely makes a lot of sense of why they would have that attitude because of the things they've experienced. And so I kind of just shrug it off and don't take it personally. But you know, in a lot of the cases, I've actually been able to do a lot of good for the people when I talk to them and get to know them, and I don't pressure them in any way. That really helps. And so the reason why I'm really touched by this exhibit is because I think it really hits it on the head of like what homelessness is, how it's a very powerful phenomenon, and it's a very powerful phenomenon that a lot of people just take for granted because it's something that they don't think about. And I guess kind of why should they think about it? By the way, this is the story of the rich house. Just get a little shot. But essentially, I don't want this to be a rant, but that's kind of been my experience with it. I can't tell you how many people I've seen that have been homeless where people just walk by and they don't even stop to see how that person's doing. And it's very crushing, and it makes sense why essentially those people feel helpless. There's a really powerful line by Mother Teresa, a quote, where she describes how essentially we see homelessness as basically just not having food, not having shelter, but essentially it's a lot more complex than that. What these people don't have is people who care, and I think that that's one of the most powerful things to think about. That they feel abandoned, they feel lonely, and so yeah. At the end here, these are just places to donate. This doesn't really have a lot to do with anything. Well, it does, but not in terms of the political or social aspects of homelessness, as I perceive it at least. I mean, because they do definitely, but that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, I know this video was a little raw, a little sloppy because, you know, like I said, there were definitely some distractions. But I'd like to close with just getting a good shot of this picture from a side slant. And yeah, this is Phoenix, and this is a little documentation of this powerful exhibit called No Fixed Address. And I hope that you're able to learn something from it. Again, I apologize about the sloppy nature of this video, but I did my best given the circumstances. I'm an amateur video filmmaker, slash, I don't know what they call it, people that make documentaries though. But yeah, that's what I got. This is Phoenix, and thank you.